On Sunday, President George W. Bush took his last ride as Commander-in-Chief on Marine One and landed for one last time on the South Lawn. This Bush administration began on January 20th, 2001, and will end in 17 hours. These past 8 years have been marred by many tragedies and plenty of tough times in America. Our nation was attacked in a way it had never been attacked before, and a recession ensued. A war was started in Afghanistan, and then 2 years later, another in Iraq. The catastrophic nature of Hurricane Katrina caused the great city of New Orleans to become weakened. Not at all destroyed, but weakened. Our friends in London and Madrid were bombed by people holding the same ideology as those who had bombed us not that long before. In 2008, our economy began to slow down, and as it came to a complete halt, it became known that we had been in a recession since late 2007. People have spent a lot of time discussing the Bush legacy and how his presidency has affected the future of our nation, as well as the future of our relations with the rest of the world. Maybe history will vindicate him, and I would love to be proven wrong, but I have a hard time seeing the Bush administration as anything but mostly ineffective for the times and tribulations America was in. For credit where credit is due, President Bush gave this nation good leadership after the September 11th terrorist attacks. He helped our nation get out of the 2001 recession that followed. I'm not disputing that. What I am disputing is much of what came from his presidency. He may think that the government's response to Katrina was speedy, but most Americans know it wasn't. Instead of resting at the ranch, delegating responsibility to others, he should have been in Washington and visiting New Orleans within hours, mobilizing FEMA and giving guidance to state and local governments on what to do. If he had been more active, the lives of hundreds of pets and the lives of thousands of desperate, innocent Americans would not have been ended and destroyed. I understand the immense pressure put on President Bush to go to war, but he should have withstood the calls for war. We may dispute the reasons for war, oil, personal grievances, or a genuine threat of terrorism, but what we can all agree on is that our national security, our civil liberties, our economy, and our foreign relations have all been hurt. The effectiveness of the war in Iraq is disputable, but the handling under George Bush was unfortunate. The problem with much of this administration was that it simply cared too little for the interests of the American people. In an effort to privatize Social Security, Bush chose to turn his back, and seniors, immigrants, the impoverished, and many average Americans saw health care become a crooked industry and costs shot up. On behalf of his conservative beliefs, he chose inequality over fairness. He chose to make America, for many gays and lesbians, a nation of hard times and oppression. He made no effort on behalf of the LGBT community, a minority, to ensure fairness and protection under the law. For the tens of thousands of gay Iraq veterans and the 1 million gay veterans alive, he gave them a cold shoulder. For the decent, good Americans who lived their lives differently, he gave them the middle digit. He may have given lots of money to defeating AIDS in Africa, which was great on his part, but his foreign policy will always be marred. His actions in Iraq and in Guantanamo Bay Prison, as well as elsewhere, have significantly hardened our fragile relations with the Persian Gulf and Middle Eastern nations, as well as have distanced our brothers and sisters in Europe and South America. I'm glad this administration is through, and I'm even more glad that a man who I am proud to have worked for in 2008 is being sworn in as our nation's 44th president. Respectfully, goodbye, George Bush.